You don't crash during the hardest part of the day. You crash when the day finally leaves you alone. That's why this feels so confusing. At 2 in the afternoon, you were replying to people, solving small problems, keeping the day moving, maybe even sounding normal on the phone. Then a few hours later, you walk through your front door, put your things down, and suddenly, even deciding what to eat feels like work. So your brain jumps to the wrong conclusion. What is wrong with me tonight? But that's usually not the real question. The better question is this: what was my body holding together all day that I'm only feeling now? Because for a lot of people, the evening crash is not random. It's delayed. It's what happens when your system spends hours keeping you functional and then finally runs out of reasons to keep the act going. That's the part most people miss. Getting through the day is not the same as moving through it well. You can look completely fine and still be running on pressure. You can be productive and still be tense the entire time. You can sound calm while your whole body is basically saying, just get me to the end of this day. And if you're used to living like that, you may not even notice it while it's happening. That's why the crash feels like it comes out of nowhere. It doesn't. It's just the first honest moment your body gets. Think about how most days actually feel. You wake up, and before you've properly arrived in yourself, something already wants your attention. There's a message, a task, a time pressure, a decision. Then the day begins picking up speed. One thing leads into another, and before you know it, you're not living inside the day anymore. You're managing it. That matters. Because when your attention stays outside of you for long enough, it becomes very easy to override what's happening inside of you. You stop checking whether you're okay. You start checking whether you're keeping up, and those are not the same thing. So, maybe your shoulders have been tense since morning, but you don't really register it. Maybe your brain has been overstimulated for hours, but you keep pushing because there's still something else to finish. Maybe you've been irritated, hungry, overloaded, mentally fried, but there hasn't been a clean enough moment to feel any of it properly. So the body waits. It keeps going because you keep going. Then the day goes quiet, and all at once the bill lands on the table. That's why evenings can feel so brutal. Not because evenings are the problem, but because evening is often the first time the performance stops. And once the performance stops, the truth gets louder. That truth can look different from person to person, but it usually feels familiar. Your mind gets sticky. Tiny tasks start feeling weirdly heavy. You want rest, but rest doesn't feel clean. It feels flat, agitated, dull, or strangely uncomfortable. Like your body still hasn't received the message that it's allowed to stand down. That in-between state is horrible. You're too drained to do anything useful, but not settled enough to actually relax. And that's what makes this so discouraging. The part of the day that was supposed to feel like relief starts feeling like aftermath instead. So you begin to dread your own evenings. Maybe not consciously at first, but the pattern gets there. You stay on your phone longer than you want to. You keep background noise on. You put off going to bed. You keep yourself half busy because some part of you already knows what happens when things finally go still. You feel everything you were too busy to feel earlier. That's why calling this laziness is so unfair. Laziness doesn't explain why you were capable all day and empty by night. Laziness doesn't explain why your mind works fine until the pressure ends. Laziness doesn't explain why the crash shows up precisely when there is finally space. What explains it much better is delayed stress. Your system gets you through the day first. Then, it hands you the cost. And if you're someone who is good at being useful, this can be even harder to notice. The more reliable you are, the more likely you are to confuse performance with genuine capacity. You assume that because you manage the day must have been manageable. But some days are only manageable because your body is borrowing from later. That is what people don't see. They see the version of you that answers, adapts, keeps moving, stays polite, stays on top of things. They don't see what happens after when the structure disappears and your body stops protecting you from the full weight of the day. So of course, this starts feeling personal. You begin asking things like, why do I always fall apart when I'm alone? Why do I have energy for work but not for my own evening? Why can I show up for everything except myself? Those questions hurt because they make it sound like the problem is your character, but most of the time, it isn't. The problem is that your body is much more honest about cost than your schedule is. Your schedule only asks, can you keep going? Your body asks, at what price? That is a much harder question, and it's the one most people avoid until they can't anymore. So let's make this practical. If you keep crashing after being fine all day, stop measuring the day by output alone. Don't ask only, did I get everything done? Ask something better. What kind of fuel did I use to get through it? Was it actual energy? Or was it urgency? Was it steadiness? Or was it pressure? Did you move through the day with any room to come down? Or did you just keep overriding yourself because there was no space not to? Those questions matter because the evening crash is usually built earlier than people think. It starts in the moments where you ignore the small signals because they don't seem important enough yet. The tight jaw, the rushed breathing, the rising irritation, the mental static, the way everything starts feeling slightly too loud. None of that looks dramatic in real time, which is exactly why it gets ignored. But ignored strain doesn't disappear. It accumulates. And when strain accumulates without any proper off-ramp, the body does what bodies do. It doesn't give you a gentle philosophical lesson. It pulls the plug. That's the crash. And once you understand that, the goal changes. The goal is not to become better at pretending you're fine until 9 p.m. The goal is to stop needing such a violent drop at the end of the day. That means building a transition, not a huge routine, not something unrealistic, just an actual landing between performance and rest. This is where most people get it wrong. They finish the day and expect themselves to relax instantly, as if the nervous system were a light switch. 1 second, it's emails, notifications, traffic, conversation, decision-making, mental effort. The next second, it's supposedly meant to become peaceful just because you sat on the sofa. It doesn't work like that. A body that has been bracing all day does not trust stillness immediately. It needs a bridge. So here's the practical part. When you get home, don't go straight from output to collapse. Give yourself 10 minutes where the only goal is to let your system arrive. No doom scrolling, no instantly fixing the next thing, no asking your brain to carry on in a different form. Lower the stimulation. Put the phone down for a moment. Let the room be quieter. Breathe more slowly than you feel like you need to. Walk around your home a little more slowly than usual. Give your body one clear signal. The demand is over now. That is not a magic trick. It is an off-ramp. And for a lot of people, that off-ramp is the difference between a rough evening and a complete collapse. Because when the system gets a chance to land gradually, it doesn't always have to slam into the ground to stop. That's the shift I wanted to get to from the beginning. Your evening is not necessarily where you become weak. It may just be where your body stops hiding what the day cost. And if that's true, then the answer is not more self-criticism. It's more honesty earlier, more awareness of what fine actually means in your life, more respect for the fact that functioning under pressure is still pressure even when you're good at it. So tonight, try this. Before you collapse into your usual pattern, give yourself that 10-minute landing. Then come back here and tell me what happened. Did it change the evening at all? Did your body soften, even a little? Or did you realize just how much you'd been carrying without noticing? Save this if your evenings keep feeling like the aftermath instead of the reward. Because sometimes you're not falling apart at night. You're finally feeling the day honestly.